Hello, and welcome to what I'm hoping to call Budget Bar. Now, starting off, I do want to apologize for the singular camera angle. I intended to have a webcam with me that was decent quality, and I was going to position to sit here and show my hands making the drinks. Unfortunately, it appears that I've left that and my handy-dandy microphone back at my house on my desk, so that's on me. But Budget Bar is my attempt to sort of show that you don't need to spend an excessive amount of money to make drinks good, or even to have good drinks. So I've got a bunch of stuff here that's all relatively inexpensive, the most expensive thing here being the Bulleit whiskey itself. And as for why I chose Bulleit, you might ask, well, I happen to like Larceny more, but Larceny comes in a smaller bottle. I believe it's worth the price. I also don't drink that often. I don't go through liquor that quick. So I decided to go with something that I know I can get a bit more of for a similar price to Larceny, and I know is not bad and is really good for mixing drinks. You can obviously drink Bulleit straight if you want. I personally, again, enjoy Larceny. I enjoy some other stuff better, so that's what I tend to drink straight. But for mixing drinks, I think Bulleit's a fine substitute. This bottle here is $31. As you can see, I have made some mixed drinks already. It may or may not have been an attempted previous stream of this, but that's besides the point. So that brings us to now, though. And the name Budget Bar also implies that my materials are, as you can see, incredibly advanced for a bartender, which I am definitely not. This isn't even my shot glass. I borrowed it from a roommate. Speaking of which, they're also the reason I am in my room, set up on a white table, instead of in the kitchen using it as a backdrop as I intended. So you get a poster and an art piece that I bought behind me. But jumping right in, I think that when it comes to whiskey, which I think is one of the better spirits you can get, there's some pretty standard drinks one should kind of make. I think right off the bat, you have the classic whiskey sour. Now, this is about a, I want to say, 2-ounce shot glass. So whiskey sour is pretty simple. You tend to want to use a shorter glass for it, and you normally do have ice. I tend not to put a lot of ice in my drinks, and I'm going to just kind of stick with that now. Whiskey sour is about 1.5. You can always eyeball it. More whiskey's not going to be too bad. You can adjust it to taste as well. So whiskey sour is 1.5 bourbon. I always under closing the bottle just for the sake of my paranoia. 1.5 teaspoon of lemon juice. I'm not the best when it comes to this. I prefer the science of eyeballing it, but if it tastes more like lemon, I tend to enjoy it that way. This is the recipe as pulled from the Bulleit website, so obviously they're going to be a little biased. But from there, you're supposed to put sugar in it. I don't quite have sugar on me. I do have simple syrup, which is sugar and water. And the only reason I didn't make my own and I bought some was because at the time, I didn't trust our burners not to catch on fire in this place. Now, for a whiskey sour, the correct way to make it, the way I've never done it, is you then take an orange slice as your garnish. And you throw a cherry in there. Now, predominantly, why did I wear the white shirt? These are served with ice. Now, I will not be drinking this because the stream is happening at about 3 in the afternoon and I have things to do today, but this is a great time to kind of give you all an idea of what a drink can and should look like. Obviously this will be more ice and you can adjust the liquor based on size and reference, but this is what a whiskey sour could and tend to look like. Now whiskey sour, as I've had this before and I have drank it before, is a really good mix of lemon and bourbon. I've never done it with the cherries and the orange peel, but I know what it adds. The orange will add a nice citrus tang to it that mixes with the lemon, providing a bit of sweetness to the straight up tartness, and the cherry is more sweetness that you can then bite on to help wash it down. Think of it as a organic chaser, as organic as maraschino cherries are, that is. But that's a whiskey sour. As you can see, we have plenty of bourbon to go, plenty of lemon juice, plenty of oranges, considering this bag of oranges are the most oranges I've eaten in the past year and a half. I never eat these things. Now, as I said, I'm not drinking, so I do have a slop bucket next to me, so I can pour things out and continue making cocktails. But normally, I don't tend to I tend to stick to one drink for the night, but in a party situation or a professional situation or a bar, you can mix up the type of drinks. I tend to stick to the rule of stick to one kind though. You can change up that kind, but nonetheless. Next up, we're going to do a drink that I think is honestly one of my favorites. I tried this for the first time yesterday, and it was the first time I ever really had a drink like this. And honestly, it blew me away. It was, they called it a Kentucky coffee. This is about 2.5 of bourbon. Now it's 2.5 of bourbon. Oh, okay, never mind. Read that wrong. That was the wrong recipe, so we'll just go ahead and jump from that instead. We'll just double that then. So it's supposed to be 2.5 of coffee, then 1.25 of bourbon. So for coffee then, that would take us about up to there. And again, this isn't good coffee, nothing is special. And then it's brown sugar and creamer to taste. I'm not a believer in brown sugar, so we're going creamer here instead. Stir that up. And that is a slightly larger than necessary Kentucky coffee. Now, I like this for multiple reasons. A, because I think that the bitterness of straight up coffee goes well with the kind of kick of bourbon you get, if anyone can understand what I mean. And going along with that, adding the creamer can help mellow that all out, and it's something that I've been interested in trying in Irish coffee and similar things before. It's an interesting type of drink to make and type of thing to do. But Kentucky coffee, as just prescribed by Bulleit. I assume actual Kentucky coffee is probably just straight up coffee. Now, I think we're going to go back to the small glass now. And we're going to go to what is literally called the Frontier Old Fashioned, which, quite frankly, is a bit of a misnomer because Old Fashions themselves are a pretty classic drink. So this is about 1.25 ounces of bourbon. You do 2 bar spoons of simple syrup. I do not have 2 bar spoons of simple syrup. So, about 1.5 of these, I assume. Now, the most expensive thing on this table, besides the booze, are probably the bitters and this vermouth. Now, I did not buy these for this. I previously owned these and had bought them months ago. As you can see, I didn't quite work my way through them. But the bitters are basically orange peels and blended extracts giving flavor to certain drinks. And now, a lot of whiskey does go with oranges, and as such, you are going to add dashes of Angostura bitters, which are kind of the go-to, I understand, for Old Fashions. This actually isn't used in any of these recipes. I use it to make Rob Roy's and Manhattans. That was the intent, but I did not buy the rye version just because I think the straight-up whiskey does better. Which, in itself, there's a very stupid story with all that a lot of whiskey is just pretentious name-calling, which is not an incorrect sentiment. And that's an old-fashioned. But like what I mean by pretentious name-calling is that bourbon has to be made in a very specific area, and it has a different mash build. Whiskey can be anywhere. But to be called Scotch, you have to be made in Scotland. You're made the same as this, but you're made in Scotland. It's all just pretentiousness. But I know for a fact my time is definitely almost up, and I've gotten through a few of the drinks that I liked, but now I want to make a drink that I am very much torn on, if you will understand me here. Now, I've tried vodka, I've tried rum, and one of the consistents with those has been, not the mules, because it's called Dark and Stormy and rum, but a drink that uses ginger beer and lime. For vodka, it was called a Moscow Mule, and for rum, it was called the Dark and Stormy. Bulleit puts on their website a Kentucky Mule. Now, I was interested to try it simply because I haven't had a Kentucky Mule. So you do, again, the classic at this point, the 125 bourbon. You do 0.5 of an ounce of lime juice, which, again, I'm always torn on limes in whiskey. I feel like lime's great. I enjoy lime in a lot of things. I just think whiskey has a great natural flavor that doesn't need a lime, so I don't tend to use it often. And here's what's interesting though, is that you then do a lime wedge and you top it with ginger ale. Now, the reason that's interesting and the reason I'm torn on this drink, the Dark and Stormies and the Moscow Mules both make use of ginger beer, which is non-alcoholic. Brewed from ginger, has a very pungent flavor, very much punch you in the mouth and keep going. So when mixed, it combines very well and then tends to work with it to give you this unique flavor or cover up most of it in the case of vodka. The flavor's potato crap anyway. But here's the thing, when you mix this with ginger ale, and it might just be the fact that I went cheap and bought Schweppes, it gives it a very unique flavor and very odd smell, because it smells like a Moscow Mule. However, I drank this yesterday in an attempted previous one, as I said. It does not taste like a Moscow Mule. You get these weird notes of whiskey that just don't go well with the ginger ale, in my opinion. I'm also pretty biased because I tend to like the taste of whiskey, and a lot of whiskeys that don't go with that straight kind of rye flavor tend to throw me off. I tried Wild Turkey and I didn't like how much fruit I tasted in it. Not exactly a snob, I'll drink the cheap stuff all day. But in this drink, it did not click with me. Obviously, I'd love for people to try it themselves and definitely throw ice in there, as I'm not doing. But I don't enjoy ginger ale, whiskey, and lime. I will say, if you want a classic drink, you can always go for the home run that is whiskey and Coke, or whiskey and RC Cola, or whiskey and fill it in here, something similar. That works no matter what kind of whiskey it is, because the flavor notes go well together. But it just does not look appetizing to me, and I do not enjoy the flavor that it makes me put up with. So I'm showing that one more out of respect for possibility than anything else. But if you're a bit like me, and sometimes the drinks to be a bit too complicated or require a bit too many ingredients, at one point I was going to make a mint julep, which required bourbon, sugar, fresh mint, and water. I gave up trying to find fresh mint in 15 minutes. You can always go for the most classic whiskey drink of them all. Straight. You can have it on the rocks as well. I'm not a fan of ice just because I'm lazy and I don't feel like grabbing it half the time, but straight. And straight's a great way to kind of get an idea for what the whiskey is, and of course not all whiskeys are created equal. But that being said, I didn't buy all of this here, and some of it I bought previously for other things. These oranges were bought because I ate someone else's for the first time. But I will say that everything here that has a singular use is there. And I'll be honest, these two were the most expensive things here. This was $4, this was $3. You can drink this on its own. Lemon juice is useful. Lime juice, I drink water with it, I'm weird. Lemonade, useful. Marciano cherries, they're sweet, they're cherries. People like them. So all of this here ran me about $60. But I bought it all at one time. If you have Minute Maid around your house, whiskey lemonade. If you just have ginger ale or some similar soda, don't go Sprite, but you know what I mean. Well, that works. Whiskey sours. You can go for the mules if you're a psychopath. There's a lot you can do with what you have around your house, and you can always drink a drink straight or try to make your own. And that's kind of the end point of Budget Bar. And as we come to an end here, as I'm running overtime, I kind of did this as a way to both expand my horizons of what cocktails there are to drink and stop drinking things straight, but also to actually try to show that that there's a lot to mixing, and it doesn't have to be this ornate, craft brewed thing. It can be a moderately expensive cheap whiskey that you bought a lot of, some oranges, some limes, some lemons, and some Nestle coffee creamer. And the coffee maker you inherited from your sister because she upgraded and left you with her stupid mini fridge. So I've been your not bartender for this. I'm Hunter Geiger. I'll probably be doing this again whenever I get another liquor, that or I'll use the bottle of Johnny Walker I have sitting upstairs. But for now, this is goodbye. Thank you for watching Budget Bar. Hope they'll be back, and maybe next time I'll have a guest with me to try these cocktails. I won't be doing it at 3 in the afternoon. So long, goodbye.